Hey friends, Red Specs Gaming here, and it's time for another mod showcase, mod explanation, mod explained badly, whatever you want to call it. And today we're going to look at Ars Nouveau. Ars Nouveau is a magic-based pack, which allows you to cast spells. It allows you to even create your own spells. It's got some cool items in it to play with, and it's quite a large mod. So we're going to cover the basic mechanics of the mod, and then I'll let you dig in and find all the specifics. But there's a lot to this, so let's get started. Okay, so when you start out with Ars Nouveau, you're going to end up with this worn notebook at the beginning. And this, like any other guidebook, it's got all the information of everything you need in here. One of the things I find most useful in the guidebooks are just looking at the entry index, and anything you're looking for, you just look at it for it in alphabetical order. For the most part, they might break them into sections, but you'll find anything you want there. But it's got a getting started section. It's got all about the resources, the different glyphs that we're going to make, things like that. So when you're lost and looking for something, just check this book out. But to get started, the first thing you're going to want to do is actually make yourself a spell book. And so when you come in here and you look, the novice spell book is how you start out, and that's going to start with a book, an axe, a sword, a shovel, and an iron pickaxe. Those are all iron. And when you pull that guy out, boom, you now have a spell book. And you'll notice the moment we picked up our spell book, there's a little purple bar there in the bottom left corner. That represents your mana pool. And you'll get more of that as you go. But anytime you've got the spell book in your hand, that guy is there. See, we take it out, goes away, put it back, there it is. And in the spell book, if you hit the button for the spell book, you can see here along the left or right side, these are the spells that you can create. So you can have up to 10 spells in here, and then you create what they are. Right now there's nothing showing, so they all looks the same when I click on them. And there's also the worn notebook is here, so you don't need to carry that book anymore. As long as you've got the spell book, you're good to go. If you right click, you see it says invalid spell. So like right now C is what that's bound to for me. And in the spellbook, you can create your own spells based on the glyphs that you have unlocked. So when you start out with 5 glyphs, basically. And what they are is the projectile glyph, the self glyph, the touch glyph, the break, and the harm. These are forms, which means the form of the spell. So in this case, you get a projectile spell, or it happens to yourself, or you have to touch something. These are the effects here. So in this case, you can break or you can harm. And then there's going to be another section which are kind of like augments to your spells, like increasing their potency or decreasing mana cost, things like that, which we have to unlock. One thing to note, currently I am playing this in the Dawncraft pack, and certain glyphs like break have been disabled in that pack, so that may be a case depending on what pack you're playing. We're going to pretend like nothing is disabled and we're just going straight up. So if we wanted to make a spell, for example, let's say we wanted to make a projectile spell and it breaks blocks. And we'll just call it Remote Mine. Oop, cap locks. We'll call this, down here you type the name of the spell. This is my remote miner. And then you say create. And then that's what's going to be on 1. So now, if I right click with a spell book in my hand, you see how it remote mines that block? That's pretty cool, right? It's a pretty powerful spell. So if we wanted to take out this brick wall, for example, it breaks it. Which is why in packs like Dawncraft, they've disabled it, because they have a certain order they want you to do things in a certain way, and that's way too powerful. But in a pack where that's not disabled, it's a great thing to have. To get more glyphs and get more effects, we need to unlock some glyphs first. So one of my favorites is the light, the mage light, because then you don't have to carry torches. And I'll show you how we're going to unlock that guy. So before we can get to unlocking new glyphs, there's a couple of steps between us and the glyphs. The first thing that you want to look at after, or I guess the second thing after your book, is this guy here, the Imbuement Chamber. And so you'll need to craft him, and you'll need some archwood planks and some gold to craft him. Now, archwood you'll find all over the world. There's 4 different flavors of it. You've got the Cascading Archwood, the Vexing Archwood, the Flourishing Archwood, and the Blazing Archwood. And you'll find these in kind of flatter areas. I've had a hard time finding them on mountainsides, which is where my game is in Dawncraft right now. But any of these will work for the basics of the pack. So whichever color you find, go ahead and chop some of that down and get some of that. Make sure you bring the saplings back so you can grow your own. But there are going to be some things in the pack that you'll need specific types for. But for the most part, most of this stuff, any kind of archwood will work. So once you've got your archwood wood, you can come back and you can create your imbuement chamber. And now your imbuement chamber has a number of different effects that it can do. So let's set that down. And let me grab some lapis. The very basic of the imbuement chamber is making these source gems here. So what you do is you take the imbuement chamber and you put a piece of lapis in there, and then you wait. And after a bit of time, it will craft that into the source gem that we're looking for. And there you have it. So now you have, well, we're in creative. If we weren't in creative, it would have picked it up. But then you would have gotten source gems. And so those are what you're looking to craft on that. But that took a while. So for us to get around that, there is the next step, which would speed this up. So speeding up the imbuement chamber requires magical energy, and we're going to get magical energy out of the environment. So you're going to need 2 items to do that. First thing you're going to need is the Agronomic source link, or Agronomic source link. So that's going to take 2 source gems, so you're going to have to put up with the slow speed of the imbuement chamber to get 2 of these at least, probably a few more. You're going to need some gold, and you're going to need wheat. And when you put that in, boom, you get one of these. And then you're also going to need a second thing, which are the source jars. That you just need some glass and some archwood slabs. You put those in, and you get that. Now with these 2 in hand, you can start setting up a garden. And the way it works is you put down the source link, and then within 15 blocks of the source link, anything that's growing, the growing ticks will feed magical energy to the source link. Now, the source link doesn't store the magical energy, so that's where the source jars come in. And so as long as these are within, I think it's 3, maybe 5 blocks of the source link, the magic energy that gets fed to him will go and store inside these jars. Now, something to know about that is it's only the growing ticks on plants that give energy. So you can't, when they're full like this, they're not going to give energy. So we have to make sure we come in here and we pick the berries every now and then. In this case, I'm using berries because you'll find that the Ars Nouveau stuff, the magic plants, they give more energy than regular. These, of course, will hurt you in survival because they have thorns. But if we get rid of all of this, let these have a moment or two, boom, you see that? So now that they're growing berries again, they start feeding energy back over here to this guy. And so there's ways later on as well to automate growing of plants and getting energy off of these, which I'm not sure we're going to cover exactly in this, but just kind of pointed out, there are familiars that you can get in this pack that will cover harvesting all your plants for you. And that will then keep this rolling and keep energy flowing into your source link, which will then keep your jars filling up. Okay, so now that you've got energy collecting, I'll show you the difference between how this imbuement chamber works with and without energy. So if we put a piece of lapis in there now, and done. So much quicker. So to get the most out of the source jars, your devices need to be close to them. So if we just come a couple blocks over and drop in one of these, you can see we're back to the 2, 4, 6, 8, the slow growth of that. And so really, you need to be, I think it's within 3. See, that's fast there. But if we go out 3 away, or 2 between, we're back to that. So there are ways to move source. You can use a bucket if you so want. So we can pull source out of here and put it in a different jar. That's one way to do that. You can break the jar itself, which I won't do because I'm in creative, and the jar will stay full and you can move the jar itself. Or there's another object which can transfer from one jar to another. But before we can do that, there's a few other things that we're going to have to build. So the next thing we're going to need to continue on are these three objects which we'll need together. That is the Enchanting Apparatus, the Arcane Core, and the Arcane Pedestals. Now, they all require some Arcane Stone. So to get Arcane Stone, what you're going to do is you're going to take regular stone, you're going to put it in, and you're going to throw some source gems in there, right? And then that'll get you Arcane Stone. Once you have some Arcane Stone, in this case, we're going to first start with your apparatus. That's another, you put a diamond in there, some iron ingots, and some Arcane Stone, and now you have the Enchanting Apparatus, but he requires these other two things to make, or for him to work. So with a little bit of gold and some Arcane Stone, you get the Arcane Core, and then finally, you're going to make up to 8 Arcane Pedestals. You don't need 8 for everything that you're doing, but if you're making them, I would just go ahead and make all 8 because you're going to need them eventually, and they don't hurt to be there. So you want up to 8 of these. And then what you have to do is you have to set them up thusly. You put your core down, you put your apparatus on top of that, and then within 3 blocks, I just put them right up against it. You're going to put your 8 pedestals. And that's your setup for Ars Enchanting, basically. And the way this works is you put the items that you're using in your enchanting here on these pedestals, and then the final item goes into the apparatus, and then that creates for you the item you're looking for. So let's talk about the first thing what we want to create. In our case, that's going to be, let me just put these out real quick. We're going to make us a seed. So you can see here I've got the apparatus set up already, and I've actually put it, I put the core down in the ground, so this was lower. And what we're going to do is we're going to make this Mage Bloom seed. And the way this works is we need 4 of the source gems and 1 wheat seed. So let me take a wheat seed, let me take the source gems. Okay, and we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and a wheat seed. Actually, I think with the wheat seed goes in the center. Boom. And then that's going to pull magic and bamf. Create us the Mage Bloom seed. Now, understand that this might have, and probably does, require magical energy to work when you're not in creative mode. So in that case, you would need to take one of those jars and set it up near this in case it needs it. But in creative, I think it might let me get away without having to have the magic there. So again, you can just either bucket over some into another jar that's close to this, or bring the entire jar over and set it down here. But we need to create something that is called the Dominion Wand to do the next thing, and that required the Enchanting Apparatus to do that. To make the Dominion Wand, we want 2 source gems, a gold ingot, and stick. So, boom, boom, and I need a stick for the center. So we would do 2 source gems, 2 gold ingots, stick in the center, no pedestals found within 3 blocks. Wait, did I do that wrong? Oh, it's 1 gold. That's why. Don't make that mistake. Bam. And now we will create our Dominion Wand, which we need for various things in the pack. Boom. And now we have a Dominion Wand, which will let us do the next part that I wanted to talk about. Okay, so next let's talk about an easier way to move your magical energy around, and that's this guy, the Source Relay. So using a source gem block, which is just 4 gems put together, makes a block, and some gold, we can create a Source Relay. And what a Source Relay does is it moves magical energy from one jar to another, basically. So if we were to come over here and we were to put a relay right here next to these jars, right? We could take your Dominion one then, and you could right click on this jar and then right click on that, and it would send it there, right? And then you can right click on this guy and you can come to another jar like this one over here that has to be within 30 blocks, mind you, and we could send the magic here. So basically, it's taking magic from that jar and sending it over to this jar. And then if you had another one here, we could say, let's take from here to here, and then from here down here to this one. Okay, and then we'll go from him to him, and from him over to this guy, and then finally one more from him to him, and from him over to this guy. And there's probably better ways, shorter ways to do it. I just wanted to show you how the magic is being sent along this relay line. You're basically setting up power conduits. And so now this jar is near our enchanting apparatus, so if it needed magical energy, it has it, and it's coming from the garden that I set up over there. So that's the source relay. There's also a lot of other relay things in the pack that do different things, like splitting the signals, warping the signals, depositing and collecting. This is going to be beyond what we're covering right today. Today we're covering basic mechanics, but just know that that's stuff there, and you can play with it and figure out how to use it. So that's basically sending magical energy around. Okay, so let's talk about how to increase your base mana that you have on you, because as we create spells, they're going to use mana, and you're going to need more mana personally. The source jars are great, that's for your machinery, but for you personally, for that little purple bar there in the bottom left corner, you're going to need some things. So as we talked about already, you first start with some Mage Bloom seeds, and then once you have Mage Bloom seeds, you can come over here, or I have over here, just set you up a normal garden and start growing Mage Bloom, yourself, start farming it up. And then once you've collected enough Mage Bloom, you can actually use that to make some fibers. So if you look here, it's 4 Mage Bloom, and you get a whole bunch of Mage Bloom fiber out of that. That was a 64 stack. We got 4 stacks of Mage Bloom. And you can use that Mage Bloom like any other armor creating item, same patterns, and you can then make yourself a novice set of gear. And the novice set of gear will increase the amount of mana that you have and that you have available to you. I believe it increases the regen speed too. So this is your novice set. And then later on, when you get further into your game, let's throw that away. You can take that Mage Bloom fiber that you had, and you can add blaze powder to it. And if you add blaze powder to it, you end up with blaze fiber. And with blaze fiber, you can make the mage leggings, which is your next level of mage stuff. And as you can see, again, your bar goes up, your regen goes up, you now have better. And then once you get even further into your game, let's put all that away, you can take that blaze fiber and you can throw some popped chorus fruit, which obviously you've had to have gone to the nether for that one, and you'll have to have gone to the end for this one, and then you can make end fiber. And with end fiber, you can then make your archmage robes, which you can see, boom, 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 again, increases. You see how much slower that's filling up? That's because there's more there. There's a whole lot more there. And those are your end game robes that you're going to use. Along the way, though, there's a few other items you can make to increase your mana and increase your regen. There is the Amulet of Mana Boost, and there is the Ring of Lesser Discount. To start with those, you're going to need, for the ring, to make a ring of potential. That's just taking a source gem and surrounding it with some iron nuggets. That'll give you the ring of potential. And then if you take a source gem and surround it with iron nuggets in this pattern, you're going to get a dull trinket. And then if you take these and you put these on your enchanting apparatus, the dull trinket will go in the center, and then you surround it with some diamonds and some source gems, then this guy will spit out the Amulet of Mana Boost. And likewise for the ring, if you put your, I always forget the name of it, your Ring of Potential in the middle, and then surround it with some diamonds, some ender pearls, and some source gems, you'll end up with the Ring of Lesser Discount. And those also can be upgraded later on when you have more stuff. So for the case of the Amulet of Mana Boost, you can upgrade that with some more source gems, some more diamonds, and some gold, and that'll give you an Amulet of Mana Regen. And then likewise with the Ring of Lesser Discount, if you add some blaze rods, some more source gems, and some more diamonds, now you have a Ring of Greater Discount. And then those will go into your charm slots. So the necklace goes here, where, there, and the ring goes there, and you can see you can have 2 of those, and that really increases your mana regen. So ultimately you've got your Archmage, and you've got those guys, and really increases how much mana and how much spell power you have. There's some other things in the pack that are worth looking at too, some belts and some other stuff like that. I'm gonna let you discover them, but I will say one of my favorites is the Belt of Levitation, which the great thing about the Belt of Levitation is for travel, it helps a lot. If you put that in your belt slot, right, and then you jump and you press shift, you see how we're levitating? It's because we're in sneak mode, and it acts like a sort of like a hover vehicle would, where there's like a cushion of air below you. So depending on where you're going, you can go up mountains really easy with this. You can go into trees. As long as there's a block below you, it makes it really easy. Plus, when you jump off of something, if you jump off and then hold that, you won't die because you won't hit the ground. So that's one of my favorite toys in the pack there. Okay, so all of that's done, and now you're ready to really start making glyphs so you can start increasing your spell possibilities. To do that, you're going to need a scribe's table. That just uses some archwood slabs, archwood log, and a couple of sticks. And boom, now you have a scribe's table. I have one set up already over here. Boom. Same deal as that. Something to be aware of, it doesn't go down the way you would think. It always goes down straight out from where you're at. So when you're putting it down, just keep in mind like which direction you're looking. On the scribe's table, you can take your book and you can right-click your book onto the scribe's table, and it will show you all the possible glyphs that you can have. And this will do all of them. This will only show you the tier 1, the tier 2, or the tier 3 glyphs. You have to upgrade your book before you can use the tier 2 and the tier 3 glyphs. To upgrade your book, you're going to need to be a little further along in the pack, or whatever pack you're playing. So I have a novice spell book. If you add some obsidian, some diamonds, some quartz, and some blaze rods, obviously you'll have had to have done the nether to that. That gives you the mage's spell book. So now we have a mage's spell book, which means that we can do tier 2 glyphs. And then to get the archmage's book, you're basically going to have to have killed the wither. You're going to have to do what's called the Wilden Tribute, which we'll get into shortly here. Find a Totem of Undying, some ender pearls, and some emeralds. I'm not going to upgrade my book yet on that, but that would be how you would end up with the Archmage spell book. I'm going to keep it at tier 2 so I can demonstrate how the glyphs work. So anyways, you come over here and you're like, okay, I want to add some new things. So we talked about Mage Light, for example. Mage Light's a great one to have. So I want to make this glyph so I can make a spell that uses Mage Light. To do that, I need a lantern and a torch. So if we do lantern and we do torch, on this, select the glyph that you're interested in, hit the select button, and then it wants you to put those items onto the table, and it will go ahead and it will inscribe and it will create your glyph. And then once you have that glyph, you just right click on it and it unlocks Mage Light. Normally the glyph will disappear. Creative mode, it doesn't. But now if we look in our book, now if we look in our book, we now have a new glyph, which is Conjure Mage Light. So let's go to number 2 and let's make us a projectile that does Conjure Mage Light. Actually, let's do it a little differently because we already had projectile for mining. Let's change it to a touch, or not a touch, not a self, a touch. Conjure Mage Light, and we'll call this one Place Light. And we create that guy. So now wherever we right click, see, nothing happens in that direction. Nothing happens in that direction because we made it a touch spell. We have to be close enough to touch. And so now it's creating lights. And these will stay forever. They break really easy. You just got to hit them. But they'll stay forever, and you have lights. Now, pink's not the greatest of color for your lights, but that's okay because if you look in your book, in your creation, when you're in that spell, you can come here to the color picker, and you can choose colors. And so if we choose white, now when we come in here, wait, we didn't save it. My bad. You have to save it. So we're on 2. We choose white, and you hit the save button here. Now we create a white lights instead of pink lights. And so you can have any color lights you want. And this is great. If you made this a projectile instead of a touch, it's even better because now you can shoot lights way down into a cave before you get close, or right near a spawner before you get close, or whatever you want to do. You can light caves up ahead of you, and you can keep bad guys from waiting for you when you're exploring your caves. It's very nice that way. You can put lights on your ceilings if you want. It's a great spell to have, so something I highly recommend. Okay, so a lot of things in the pack, especially these glyphs, require what are known as essences. So, for example, if we want to make this launch glyph, which will launch you into the air, or launch whatever into the air, depending on what you put on it, you've got rabbit hides and you've got air essence. So how do you make essence? Well, that's where our imbuement chamber surrounded by pedestals comes into play. And so I've got the recipes for all the essences on the wall here. So you can see, like, for example, fermented spider eye, sugar, and milk, plus a source gem will give you an abjuration air essence. Source gem, Wildenhorn, Starbuncle shard, and book will give you conjuration, and so on and so forth. The thing to know about this is these don't get used up in this process. So when you collect the items you need to make an essence, just keep them around. Like even setting up something like this so you know what goes into what and you can quickly make it would be helpful. You would have a room maybe with your imbuement chamber and your arcane pedestals, and then you could have that ready to go whenever you needed an essence. So for example, let's make this earth essence. And if we look in here, I just happen to have the things I need for the earth essence. That's the dirt, the iron ingot, and the wheat seed. And then, of course, a piece of candy. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put a dirt here. We're going to put an iron here and a wheat seed here. And then we're going to throw a piece of candy in there. And this is going to be slow because we don't have the magic over here like we do. This is where having magic would come in. When that gets done, it's going to spit out an earth essence, but then these guys will still be available on the pedestal. So at this point you could pick these up, put them back on your wall, or put them back in the chest wherever you have them, and that way you've always got what you need for an essence. And so that's how you get your essences. Now once you have your essences, you can use them to do this crafting over here. So I already have some things over here that I want to make. So let's make that one we just looked at, which is 3 rabbit pelts and an air essence. And if we take our book and right click here, that's going to be the launch. Select it. We're going to 1, 2, 3 on there. Put that guy on there. That's going to give us that. Okay. Then we can learn that guy. Get rid of it. The next thing we're going to make is going to take 3 Wilden wings. Normally, I don't think you get the essence back, by the way. I think the essence should have been used up there. That's going to be for leap. This guy. So, essence. 1, 2, 3. Was that not? Did that take? Hold on. Leap. Select. 2, 3. And boom. There we go. And I'm making these specifically to show you a concept in the pack, which is chaining of things. So we've got leap, and then there's one more I want. That is going to use an abjuration essence and 3 slime balls. Do that. and that's going to be for this glyph of bounce. Okay, so if we select that, we give it that essence, we give it 1, 2. You'll notice the things float above that it wants, by the way. So that'll tell you what needs to go in there. Also, if you're looking for some kind of visual clue. All right, so now we have bounce. Okay, we unlocked bounce. Actually, we're going to make one more, and that's going to be the one that uses the diamond pickaxe. So if we right-click on that, that's going to be amplify. We're going to amplify this spell so I can show you that part of it. So now you know he wants a diamond pickaxe, which we fed it. Here comes amplify. By the way, the more glyphs you add to your spellbook, the more mana you have as well. So just unlocking glyphs and adding them to your spellbook will increase your personal mana. So we're going to learn amplify. So now if we look in the spellbook, with the right button, let's go to our third. And in this case, we're going to use self. So we're talking about me, right? We're going to do a leap, which will shoot us in the air. We're going to do a bounce, which will shoot us forward. Actually, we're going to do, sorry, not a bounce. I did that wrong. Launch, which shoots us up into the air. Leap, which shoots us forward. And then bounce, which makes us bouncy, basically, when applied to self. And we're going to call this travel. This is our travel spell. Okay? So let's create that. That's on number 3. Now, there is a wheel, by the way, which we probably should set. So if we go to your controls, your keybinds, and you look at Ars Nouveau, it's going to be spellbook toggle. I'm going to set this to middle mouse button. What else is middle mouse button? Let's get rid of pick block as that. Now when I middle mouse button, you'll get the wheel, which will come up. There's also a toggle button to toggle through them, but I like having the wheel, personally. So there's our travel spell that we created. There's our place light. There's our remote miner. Let's go with travel. And now when I cast this, you see how it it sort of works, but it's not great. And that's because we need to augment some things. So if we F5, you can see it's kind of doing the thing, and then I'm bouncy, which you can't tell because we're not high enough yet. But let's augment that real quick. What we're going to do is we are going to, actually we don't need that for that over here. We're going to move these out, and we're going to augment launch, amplify it twice. And then we're going to do our forward leap. We're going to amplify that twice. And then we're going to add our bounce on the end, and he doesn't need an amplification. This is a safety thing. In case you fall after this, you don't die because you'll be bouncy. It's like having slime boots. Now if we create it, something to be aware of, it's going to use a lot more mana now. We're going further, but still not enough. So we need to figure out why that is. And I think what we need to do is amplify our leap even more. So if we create that, let's see. That's a pretty good jump. Not bad, right? That's pretty good. Let's add our leap onto that now and see. See, that's messing it up. So maybe the order of operations is that first. We do a leap. We'll give it 1 amplify, and then we'll do a launch. And we'll give that 3 amplifies, and then we'll put a bounce on there. And let's see how that works. There you go. See that? And you can hold it like you saw. If you hold it, now if you run out of mana, you won't be able to do that anymore. Bounce won't work because I'm in creative, but if I was in survival, in fact, let's do that. Game mode, survival. You can get a feel for what that looks like. Boingy, boingy. Boingy, boingy. So there's your travel spell. And that'll get you around your world a lot better. You can just use that. And so you can play with the different augmentations and the different pieces of that to make that spell the way you want it. It'll affect it the way you want it. So that's basically how you make new glyphs, how you add things together for spells, how you augment them. Like I was saying, there is a lot in here to look at. Make sure you look at everything. There's fortune and extract and AoE. AoE is an interesting one. It'll increase the area around that. You've got fangs for damage. You've got lightning. You've got all kinds of stuff. So just get in there, go crazy, and put things together and see what kind of spells you can come up with. That's how you create spells. So the final piece that I want to talk about, well, actually there's two final pieces. First off, let's talk about the critters in the pack. There's a couple of critters you'll find wild in the world that come with the mod. And these can be made into familiars by binding them. I'm not going to get into that in this episode. I'll let you work through that. But one thing you'll know is you'll find a lot of things will require shards. And you'll see that if you do Ars. There are Drigme shards, Wixie shards, Whirlsprig, and Starbuncle shards. To get those in the wild, so let me go back to game mode creative. You'll find these guys out in the wild. And so, for example, this first one here are these guys right here, the Starbuncles. To get their shard, what you have to do is you have to throw a gold nugget down near them. And if you throw a gold nugget down near a Starbuncle, he'll notice it, collect it, and then he'll disappear, and he'll leave behind a Starbuncle shard. And so that's how you get the Starbuncle shard. This guy is the Drigme. And to get the Drigme shard, you throw down a Wildenhorn. So if you throw down a Wildenhorn near him, he'll collect that when he notices it. And he'll disappear. And boom, he'll leave you a Drigme shard. These guys are different. These are the Whirlysprigs. The Whirlysprigs require you grow a tree near them, right? So if we put this down here and we grow it, if you do that near a Whirlysprig, he'll disappear and he'll leave behind the Whirlysprig shard. Now for the Wixie shard, what you need is to make a spell that has Dispel on it. So you'll have to get that glyph, and then you're going to want to do some form. I'm going to go projectile. And then let me get a sword real quick. Because what you have to do is you have to find a witch, and you have to beat that witch down to at least half, and then dispel them. Yep, went too far. Try that again. And now dispel on them. And when you do that, they drop a Wixie shard. And so that's how you get the Wixie shard. Last thing I'm going to cover is rituals. And so to do rituals, you would take an arcane pedestal, a source gem block, and some gold gems, and you make yourself a ritual brazier. And you put that ritual brazier down. And then what you're going to need are tablets, basically. And so the different tablets do different things in different rituals. So if you do Ars tablets, you can see all the tablets you can make. We're going to make this tablet of flight. The tablet of flight is a vexing archwood log, and it specifically has to be the vexing archwood. It won't work with any other type. Diamond, ender pearl, wildenwing, and then you get a tablet of flight. Once you have the tablet, you come to your brazier and you add it to the brazier. This puts it in the ready to go. It's awaiting activation. So some rituals allow you to augment them, and they'll have items, and at that point you would add them to this. The tablet of flight's not one of those, I don't believe. Once you've augmented, then you right click and boom, the ritual is running. So now with flight, actually let's go into survival again. It gives creative flight. See, we're in survival mode, and it gives you creative flight as long as the ritual is running. It will give it to you for about 1.5 minutes, something like that. But when you get close by again, it should refresh it. So you could almost set these up around your world and then have creative flight, at least around your base. You could put these all around your base, and that would give you creative flight. And so that's kind of how the rituals work. The other ritual I did want to talk about was the Summon Wilden ritual. Before we do that, I need to switch off peaceful mode. So we're going to go to normal. And we need to talk about the other mobs that are added in this. And that's going to be the Wildens. What did I do with those eggs? So there's 3 different kinds of wildens that you'll find out in the wild, spawning naturally. That's going to be the Stalker Wilden. So they hunt you like this. They look like that. They turn into, they're kind of like a vampire Wilden. And they will fly to get you. And they drop wings. You've got the Hunter Wilden. They summon wolves. So they're like the werewolf Wilden. And they'll come at you with their wolves. And when you kill them, they drop the horns. And then finally, there's the Guardian Wilden. And they look like that. They're basically a Wilden fish. And they come with the spikes and all of that. And then they will drop the Wilden Spike, which that one didn't. Let's go back into creative. Wilden Spike looks like this. They will drop those. When you have all of those, you can make this tablet for the ritual over here. Well, actually, you can do it. You can do it with bat wings, lapis, and the vexing. But you're going to use that in another ritual, which we'll do over here. I have over here ready to go. And in this case, you would put the Summon Wilden in there, but then you would need to augment this one with a spike, a horn, and a wing. So you would do this horn, you would do the spike. Where'd the wing go? Like that. Do we just queue them on there? Okay, we queue them on there. So now we've augmented it. And now, see, there it is. You have to throw it on there. You can't click it on there. Now when you do this, what it's going to do is it's going to summon this guy, which is a boss fight. The Wilden Chimera, or Chimera, however you say it. And then when you kill this dude, he's going to be a rough fight. He's going to break blocks. He drops the Wilden Tribute. And that's what you need for the final upgrade on your book over here. And once you have that, then you can take your mage book and you can make an archmage book. And now you can handle all of the different glyphs, and you get a lot more mana, and it's just ultimately that's how you get the final part of your book. And so that's Ars Nouveau in a rather large nutshell. There's a lot more to this. There's a lot to learn with the different specifics. I'm playing with your different spells and how they can mix together and how they can create the effects that you're looking for. But I, for the most part, just like to cover basic mechanics in these mod coverages because I don't want to spoil the mod completely for you. I want you to discover, I want you to have the fun of figuring some of that stuff out. As long as you're not confused by the mechanics, that's what I'm looking for, and I hope that helped. So if that did help, do me a favor, hit the like button, maybe drop a sub to the channel. That helps a lot. Definitely comment below because I love to hear from you out there. And yeah, until the next time, talk to you later.